Most people believe arterial plaque is something that slowly builds up, narrows your arteries, and eventually blocks them. That belief is incomplete, and in some cases, dangerous. Because research now shows that plaque is not just a blockage problem. It's a biological process, driven by inflammation, immune cells, oxidation, and calcium metabolism. And once you understand those mechanisms, something surprising becomes clear. Certain foods don't just support heart health. They interact with the exact pathways involved in plaque progression and stability. Today, I'm going to walk you through what plaque actually is, why standard advice often falls short, and how specific dietary components may support your body's natural ability to stabilize, and in some cases reduce, arterial plaque. This video is educational, not medical advice. If you have cardiovascular disease or take medication, always discuss changes with your physician. But if you want to understand what's happening inside your arteries, stay with me. What plaque really is. Let's start with the basics most people never hear. Arterial plaque is not grease in a pipe. It's not something you can flush out. Plaque begins inside the arterial wall, not the bloodstream. The inner lining of your artery, called the endothelium, normally acts like a protective barrier. When it's healthy, it produces nitric oxide, keeps blood flowing smoothly, and prevents inflammation. But chronic stressors, high blood pressure, smoking, insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, damage this lining. Once that happens, LDL particles can enter the vessel wall. On their own, LDL particles aren't the enemy. The problem begins when LDL becomes oxidized. Oxidized LDL triggers an immune response. White blood cells called monocytes migrate into the artery wall and transform into macrophages. Their job is cleanup. They ingest the oxidized LDL, but eventually become overwhelmed. They turn into what are called foam cells. Foam cells accumulate. Inflammation escalates. Over time, plaque forms. This process can begin decades before symptoms appear. That's why heart disease often feels sudden. But is anything but. Here's the part most people don't realize. The most dangerous plaques are not always the biggest ones. Why plaque rupture is the real threat. Plaque isn't static. It's a living, inflamed structure with immune cells, cholesterol debris, and a thin fibrous cap. When that cap ruptures, the body forms a clot. That clot can stop blood flow to the heart attack. Block blood flow to the brain stroke. This is why plaque stability matters more than plaque size alone. Modern cardiology has done an excellent job managing symptoms. But stabilizing plaque biology, inflammation, oxidation, calcium, is where lifestyle and nutrition play a critical role. The body's natural cleanup system. Your body already has a way to move cholesterol out of tissues. It's called reverse cholesterol transport. The key player is HDL, not just the number, but its function. HDL particles interact with foam cells through transport proteins like ABCA1. When this system functions properly, cholesterol is removed from foam cells, transported to the liver, and eliminated through bile. This process has been demonstrated in both experimental and clinical research. The question is not whether it exists. The question is, what helps support it, and what disrupts it? This is where food choices become far more interesting than calorie counting. Dietary component number 1, nitric oxide support. Nitric oxide is one of the most important molecules in vascular health. It improves blood flow, supports endothelial function, helps regulate inflammation. Certain vegetables, especially arugula and beets, provide dietary nitrates. Through a well-studied pathway involving oral bacteria, nitrates can be converted into nitric oxide. This pathway has been demonstrated in human studies to improve endothelial function, arterial flexibility, and blood pressure regulation. This is one reason leafy greens consistently appear in heart-healthy dietary patterns. Dietary component number 2, extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil, especially high phenolic varieties, contains compounds such as Oleocanthal. Research suggests these compounds support anti-inflammatory signaling, may enhance HDL function, and may support cholesterol transport pathways. This helps explain why Mediterranean dietary patterns, rich in olive oil, are consistently associated with lower cardiovascular risk. Not because of fat alone, but because of bioactive compounds. But cholesterol isn't the only issue in plaque biology. Calcium and arterial stiffness. As plaque evolves, calcium can accumulate. This contributes to arterial stiffness, which is why coronary calcium scores are such strong risk predictors. Vitamin K2 plays a role in calcium metabolism by activating proteins that help keep calcium in bones rather than arteries. Observational and interventional studies suggest adequate K2 intake may be associated with reduced vascular calcification progression, improved arterial flexibility. This is why fermented foods and certain aged cheeses appear in some heart-healthy populations. Oxidation and polyphenol. Oxidative stress accelerates plaque progression. Polyphenol-rich foods, such as pomegranate arils, have been studied for their ability to reduce LDL oxidation, support antioxidant enzymes associated with HDL. This doesn't mean sugar-heavy juices or supplements are magic. It means whole foods matter. Common questions, misunderstandings, and safe clarifications. At this point in the video, a few important questions usually come up. And instead of rushing through them, it's worth slowing down here, because this is where misinterpretation often causes confusion or unrealistic expectations. Let's address these clearly, calmly, and responsibly. Can food actually remove plaque? This is one of the most common questions, and also one of the most misunderstood. There is no food that can scrape plaque off an artery like a brush in a pipe. That's not how biology works. What research does show is that plaque is dynamic. Plaque composition can change. Inflammation levels can rise or fall. Plaque stability can improve or worsen over time. Some studies suggest that when inflammation is reduced, oxidative stress is lowered, and cholesterol transport functions improve, certain plaques may shrink slightly or become more stable. That is very different from saying food cures or reverses heart disease. So the responsible framing is this. Nutrition may support biological processes that influence plaque behavior, not guarantee outcomes. That distinction matters. Does this mean I can stop medication? No. And this point deserves to be stated clearly and without ambiguity. If you are taking statins, blood pressure medication, antiplatelet drugs, or any cardiovascular medication, do not stop or change anything without speaking to your physician. Nutrition is not a replacement for medical care. In modern cardiology, the strongest outcomes occur when evidence-based medication, appropriate monitoring, and sustainable lifestyle choices work together, not in opposition. This video is about understanding mechanisms, not rejecting medicine. Why haven't doctors explained this way? This is an understandable question, and the answer is not sinister. Clinical medicine is often time-limited, risk-focused, and protocol-driven. Doctors are trained to diagnose, treat, and prevent immediate harm. They are not always given the time to walk through biochemical pathways in detail during short appointments. That doesn't mean the information is hidden. It means it often lives in journals, continuing education, and research literature. Channels like this exist to translate that science, not to replace your healthcare team. What about supplements? Supplements are where nuance really matters. Some nutrients, like omega-3 fatty acids or vitamin K2, have been studied in cardiovascular contexts. But supplements are not regulated like medications. Dosage, quality, absorption, and interactions all matter. This is why food-first approaches are generally emphasized in public health research. If supplements are being considered, they should be discussed with a clinician, tailored to individual risk, and monitored appropriately. There is no universally safe or necessary supplement for everyone. How long would changes take? What matters more, food or lifestyle? This is a false choice. Food does not operate in isolation. Sleep quality, physical activity, stress levels, smoking status, and metabolic health all interact with vascular biology. For example, exercise improves nitric oxide signaling. Sleep affects inflammation regulation. Chronic stress alters immune activity. Nutrition works best when it's part of a larger lifestyle pattern, not a standalone fix. This is another area where expectations need to be realistic. Arterial plaque develops over years or decades. Any meaningful biological shift, whether in inflammation, lipid handling, or vascular function, also takes time. Some changes, like improved endothelial function, better blood pressure regulation, may occur within weeks or months. Structural changes, if they occur at all, are typically slow and gradual. There is no overnight transformation. And any claim suggesting otherwise should be treated with skepticism. Is this approach right for everyone? Not necessarily. Individual responses vary based on genetics, existing disease, medications, metabolic health. This is why personalization matters. What supports one person's vascular health may not be appropriate for another without adjustments. That's not a flaw, it's biology. The bigger picture of arterial health. Arteries are not passive tubes. They are living tissue. They respond to chemical signals, immune activity, mechanical stress, and nutrient availability. Heart disease is not a single event. It's a long conversation between your biology and your environment. Medication can interrupt dangerous pathways. Lifestyle can influence underlying conditions. Education helps you make informed choices. None of these work well alone. Together, they are powerful. If there's one thing to take away from this entire discussion, let it be this. Understanding your arteries gives you clarity, not fear. It helps you ask better questions, have better conversations with your doctor, and make choices based on biology, not headlines. This was not about promises. Not about miracle foods. Not about rejecting medicine. It was about understanding how plaque forms, why it becomes dangerous, and what factors influence its behavior. If this explanation helped you see cardiovascular health more clearly, consider subscribing. This channel is dedicated to evidence-based explanations, careful language, and long-form understanding. No panic. No shortcuts. Just clarity. Take care of your questions. Take care of your conversations. And take care of your long-term health.